A millionaire saw a homeless woman playing the song of his childhood love and was shocked to see who she was. Before we start the story, let us know in the comments, which city are you watching from? And at the end, don't forget to rate the story from 0 to 10. Enjoy the story, everyone. Henry Smith was walking quickly down the sidewalk when he heard it. The sound of a piano. He stopped right away. The melody moved through the city like an arrow, hitting him right where he least expected, in a memory he had buried for years. It couldn't be. But it was that song. The same one the girl he loved used to play when they were young. The most beautiful and saddest song of his life. Henry looked all around to find where the sound was coming from, and he saw it. A public piano on the sidewalk near a closed movie theater. A woman was sitting there, playing with her eyes closed. Her clothes were dirty and worn. Her shoes had holes, but her hands played the piano in a way that made his heart beat faster. Henry could hardly breathe. Everything around him went quiet. He crossed the street without looking at the cars, like he was hypnotized. That posture, that way of bending her neck, the slight tremble in her hands, he knew all of it. When he got closer to her, he knew for sure. It was her, Alice Collins. She hadn't seen him yet. She kept playing, lost in the music, but Henry was frozen. Part of him wanted to touch her shoulder, another part wanted to go back in time. The girl of his dreams was now a woman who had suffered, almost invisible, hidden under dirt and abandonment. Alice? His voice came out low, barely a whisper. She stopped playing immediately. Silence, as if the whole world had stopped. She opened her eyes. Henry saw her expression change in seconds. Surprise, disbelief, and then panic. "Alice, it's me, Henry." "No," she whispered, stepping away from the bench. Her voice cracked, like she had forgotten how to speak. Her body shook. Her eyes filled with tears, but they didn't fall. It was pure fear. You can't be here." "Wait." Henry stepped forward and reached out his hand. "I just want—" But she turned and ran. Like seeing him was the worst thing in the world. Like Henry was her worst nightmare. "Alice!" She ran down the sidewalk, stumbling, knocking over boxes, bumping into people. The scarf on her head flew into the street. People stared, confused, but she didn't stop. She turned the corner and disappeared. Henry ran after her but stopped. He couldn't do it, not after seeing that fear in her eyes. He went back to the piano. The bench was crooked. One piano string was still vibrating on its own, making a strange sound. Henry ran his hand over the keys. They were cold, but the memory still burned inside him. Alice, alive, living on the streets, running from him like he was a monster. "Are you okay, sir?" a man passing by asked. Henry just shook his head, staring at nothing. 17 years without hearing from her. 17 years thinking she had chosen to leave. And now, out of nowhere, she was here. And ran from him like he was her greatest enemy. Something was very wrong. She recognized him. And still she ran. What if she hadn't chosen to disappear? What if someone had forced her to? That question kept echoing in his mind as he slowly walked away. There was an important event waiting for him nearby. But now, nothing else mattered. Because one thing was clear. Alice was still playing that song. And maybe she still held the truth about what really happened. Henry went home and couldn't stop thinking about Alice. Why did she run like that? Why that look of fear? He sat in his office, and the memories came flooding back. 17 years ago. Greenfield, a small town in the countryside. "Henry, wait for me," Alice called out, running after him on the way to school. They were 12 years old, best friends since always. "Why are you so slow?" he laughed, stopping to wait for her. "Because my legs are short," she answered, out of breath. They spent every afternoon together, talking under the oak tree in the park. She dreamed of playing piano. He dreamed of owning his own business. "One day we're leaving this town," Alice would say. "We are," Henry agreed. "Together." At 15 and 16, friendship turned into love. First shy kiss, first promises. "When I turn 18, we'll run away," Henry whispered, holding her hand. "To where?" "Chicago, New York, anywhere far from here." "Promise?" "I promise." At 17 and 18, the plans got serious. Henry worked at the gas station. Alice gave piano lessons to kids. Every penny was saved for their escape. "We've almost got $2,000, Henry said one afternoon. "Really?" Alice's eyes lit up. "Just a few more months, and we'll leave this place for good." It was innocent love, true love. But then came that terrible morning. Henry woke up excited. It was the day. They were going to run away. He rushed to the bank. The account was empty. All $2,000 were gone. Desperate, he ran to Alice's house. The house was empty. Mrs. Margaret, the neighbor, called out to him. "Henry, dear. Where's Alice? She left early this morning, with a man in a fancy car." "What man?" "I don't know, but she had a big suitcase, and she looked happy." Henry felt his world fall apart. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure, son, and she left this for you." Mrs. Margaret handed him an envelope. Inside was a note in Alice's handwriting. "Henry, I'm sorry. I met someone who can give me a better life, a life you could never give me. I took the money because I need it. Don't come looking for me. This is best for both of us, Alice." That memory still burned like acid. Henry spent years believing Alice had only been with him for what he could give her, that she waited for him to save enough money and then ran off with someone richer. But now, seeing her like that didn't make sense. If she wanted money, why was she living on the streets, and why was she so afraid to see him? Henry picked up the phone and called Marcus, his private investigator. "I need you to find out information about someone." "Of course, Mr. Smith." "Alice Collins, 32 years old. She's living on the streets here in Chicago." "Any idea where to start?" "She disappeared from Greenfield 17 years ago. I want to know everything that happened." "How soon do you need it?" "Yesterday." Henry stayed up all night thinking about those green eyes filled with fear. The next morning, Marcus called early. "Mr. Smith, I found some information about Alice Collins. Tell me everything." "She really did disappear from Greenfield 17 years ago. But sir, there's something very strange." "What is it?" "A few days after she vanished, a family tragedy happened." Henry went silent. "What kind of tragedy?" "Her parents died, Mr. Smith, and she disappeared right around the same time." The phone nearly slipped from Henry's hand. "How did they die?" "I'm still investigating. But one thing is clear. Alice Collins didn't leave Greenfield by choice." "What are you saying?" "She ran away, sir. Someone forced her to disappear." Henry spent 3 days searching for Alice on the streets of Chicago. He visited every shelter, every church, every place where unhoused people might sleep. He showed her old photo to anyone who would look. On the 3rd day, a volunteer at a community shelter on the south side recognized her. "Oh, you mean the pianist," said the woman, an older lady with gray hair. "She sleeps here sometimes." "Pianist?" "She plays piano for the children during dinner. She has a beautiful voice, too." People stopped to listen. Henry's heart raced. "Is she here now?" "No, but she usually shows up in the late afternoon." "Do you want to wait?" Henry looked at his watch. 2 in the afternoon. "Yes, I'll wait." He sat on the bench outside and stayed there for 4 hours. Every person who passed made his heart beat faster. Every female silhouette at the corner made him stand. At 6:30, he saw her. Alice was walking slowly down the sidewalk, carrying a torn plastic bag. Her hair was tied back with an old elastic band. She wore the same clothes as the day before, but she walked with her head held high, like she still had her dignity. Henry stood up. She saw him when she was about 30 feet away. She stopped right away. "Alice?" "No." Her voice was firm, but he noticed the tremble. "Don't do this. I just want to talk. There's nothing for us to talk about." She tried to walk around him and go into the shelter, but Henry moved and stood in her way. "Please, 5 minutes. Move." "Alice, I know something happened to your parents." She froze. Her green eyes filled with tears, but her face turned even harder. "You don't know anything." "Then tell me." "Why?" Her voice got louder. "So you can feel better? So you can ease your conscience?" "What conscience?" "You forgot me, Henry. You moved on with your life. You got rich, successful, just like you planned." "I didn't forget you. Not ever." "Liar." Henry took a step closer. "If I had forgotten you, I wouldn't be here." Alice stared at him for a few seconds. Her eyes showed anger, pain, exhaustion, like she was fighting a battle inside herself. "What do you want from me?" She asked softly. "I want to help you." "I don't need your help." "Alice, you're living on the street. So what? Let me put you in a hotel or an apartment. You don't have to live like this." Alice's expression changed in an instant. Sadness turned to fury. "You think I need your charity? It's not charity, it's..." "What? Pity? Guilt?" "It's love." The word came out before Henry could think. Alice pulled back like she'd been slapped. "Love?" She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You don't love me. You love the memory of who I used to be, The naive girl who believed your promises? Alice. That girl died 17 years ago. What you see now is someone else. Someone who learned how to survive on her own. Someone who doesn't need anyone. Everyone needs someone. I don't. She tried to walk past him again, but Henry held her arm. Not hard, just enough to make her stop. Let go of me, she said, looking at his hand. Sorry. He let go right away. I just need to understand what happened. Why? Because that note, it wasn't yours. Alice froze. What do you mean? The handwriting. The way it was written. It wasn't you who wrote that. You're crazy. No, I knew you better than anyone in the world. You would never use those words. You would never hurt me like that. People change, Henry. Not that much. Alice shook her head and walked toward the shelter door. Don't do this, Henry shouted. Don't run away again. She stopped but didn't turn around. I didn't run away. Then what happened? I left. It's different. Why? Alice finally turned around. Tears were running down her face, but her voice stayed steady. Because sometimes leaving is the only way to protect the people you love. She went into the shelter and shut the door. Henry stood on the sidewalk for more than an hour. Those last words kept running through his mind. To protect the ones you love. Protect from what? From whom? He went back home, determined to find out the truth. He called Marcus. I want you to look into everything about the Collins family. I need to know who their enemies were, who had a reason to hurt them. I'm already working on it, Mr. Smith. And look into my own family, too. I want to know what kind of business my father was involved in back then. Sir? Just do what I'm asking. Henry hung up and poured himself a whiskey. There was something bigger behind all of this, something that had torn them apart, and he was going to find out what it was. But what Henry didn't know was that at that very moment, in a fancy office on the other side of the city, a man in an expensive suit was looking at photos taken by a private detective. Photos of Henry talking with Alice in front of the shelter. Interesting. Marcello Ferrara murmured, Henry's business rival for years. Very interesting. He picked up the phone and dialed a number. It's me. I have some information you might be interested in. What information? The voice on the other end was harsh. About your son's marriage to my daughter. What about it? It seems Henry Smith has found a ghost from the past, and this ghost could ruin all our plans. On the other end of the line, Richard Smith stayed silent. What do you mean? The girl is alive, Richard. The girl who almost destroyed your son's future is alive. And they've found each other again. That's impossible. I have the photos right here. Do you want me to send them? Alice Collins died in the fire. Apparently not. And if Henry finds out the truth about what really happened that night, he won't find out. Are you sure? Richard Smith hung up the phone, breaking into a cold sweat because he knew exactly what had happened that night, and if Henry found out, it wouldn't just be the arranged marriage at risk, it would be the entire Smith family fortune. Henry couldn't sleep. He spent the night pacing back and forth in his office, thinking about Alice's words, to protect the ones you love. At 6 a.m, he couldn't take it anymore. He grabbed his car keys and drove to his father's mansion. Richard Smith lived in a huge estate on the outskirts of Chicago. A house that looked more like a castle, surrounded by perfectly kept gardens and a tall fence that kept the world out. Henry rang the bell insistently until the butler answered. Mr. Henry, it's 6:30 a.m. I need to talk to my father. Now. He's still asleep, sir? Then wake him up. The butler hesitated, but he had known Henry for years. He knew that when Henry was determined, it was better not to argue. Come in. I'll call him. Henry waited in the living room, pacing nervously between the expensive furniture. Family portraits decorated the walls. Photos of 3 generations of the Smith family. All fake smiles and staged poses. Richard appeared 15 minutes later, wearing a silk robe and looking annoyed. Henry, what are you doing here at this hour? I need to know the truth about Alice Collins. Richard stopped halfway down the stairs. We've already talked about this. No, you lied to me, and I want to know why. I didn't lie. I protected you. Protected me from what? Richard walked down the rest of the stairs slowly, like he was buying time to think. Sit down, he said, pointing to the couch. I'd rather stand. Henry, you don't understand the situation I was dealing with at the time. Then explain it to me. Richard sighed and poured himself a cup of coffee the butler had brought. That family was dangerous. Dangerous how? Alice's father, Robert Collins, was mixed up with the wrong people. Gambling debts, loans from loan sharks. He owed a lot of money to people who don't forgive. Henry frowned. What does that have to do with Alice? She knew about her father's business, and more importantly, she knew about ours too. What business? Richard hesitated. At the time, I was expanding the company, making deals with international investors. Some of those investors used questionable methods. What kind of methods? Henry, that doesn't matter. What matters is if Alice had gone to the authorities, our whole family would have been ruined. She never would have done that. You can't be sure. I knew her. You were a lovesick kid. Richard slammed his fist on the table. You weren't seeing things clearly. Henry stepped closer to his father. What did you do to her? We didn't do anything. We just made sure she wouldn't cause any trouble. How? Richard got up and walked to the window. We convinced her to leave. Convinced her how? Henry, let it go. It was 17 years ago. How did you convince her? We offered her money to leave town and never come back. Henry felt his blood boil. You bought her off? It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? Richard turned around, his face red. She took the money, took $5,000 and disappeared from town. If she really loved you, she wouldn't have done that. That's not true. It's the truth. We offered her money and she took it right away. Henry shook his head. No, there's something you're not telling me. Henry, she said she left to protect me. Protect me from what? Richard stayed quiet for a long time. From what could have happened to you if she stayed? What kind of thing? The people her father owed money to found out about you two. They were going to use you to pressure our family. What do you mean? They were planning to kidnap you, or worse, to force us to pay Robert Collins's debts. Henry sat down on the couch, stunned. And you told Alice this? We explained the situation. We told her that if she truly loved you, she'd do whatever it took to keep you safe. And she agreed to leave. Yes. But that's not all, is it? Henry looked his father in the eye. You did something to make sure she never came back. Richard looked away. What did you do? Henry stood, raising his voice. We may have created some false evidence. What kind of evidence? Documents showing she stole money from you, that she was involved in her father's shady business deals. You framed her? We protected our family. You destroyed her life. We saved yours. Henry paced the room, trying to take it all in. Where is she now? How would I know? That was 17 years ago. She's here, in Chicago, living on the street. Richard went pale. That's impossible. Why is it impossible? Because she was supposed to have died in the fire with her parents. Henry froze. What? Nothing. I didn't say anything. You knew about the fire, Henry? You knew her parents died? Richard sat heavily in a chair. It wasn't our fault. What wasn't your fault? The fire. We didn't send anyone to do that. But you knew it was going to happen. The people Robert owed money to were out of patience. When Alice disappeared, they got angry, thought we were hiding her. And you didn't warn the Collins family. It wasn't our problem. Henry looked at his father like he was seeing a stranger. You're monsters. We did what we had to do to protect our family. And Alice? How did she survive? I don't know. Maybe she wasn't home when the fire happened. And since then, she's lived like a fugitive, thinking you'll kill her if you find her. Richard didn't answer. Henry walked to the door. Where are you going? Away from you. Henry, you can't change the past. But I can do something about the present. Henry left, slamming the door behind him. He drove around the city with no destination, trying to make sense of everything he had just learned. His own family had destroyed the life of the woman he loved most. They had framed Alice, made her believe she was in danger, let her parents die, and for 17 years he believed she had betrayed him. At 8 in the evening, he was driving aimlessly through downtown when he saw a sign, the Underground Live Music. It was a small bar kind of hidden on a side street. Henry heard piano music just like Alice used to play. He parked and went in. The place was dark and filled with cigarette smoke, a few scattered tables, a small bar in the back, and an old piano in one corner. And there she was, Alice, sitting at the piano, playing a sad piece he didn't recognize. She wore a simple dress, probably borrowed. Her hair was down, falling over her shoulders. Even in the dim light of the bar, she looked beautiful. Henry sat at a table in the back where she couldn't see him. There were about 15 people in the bar. Most weren't even paying attention to the music. But Alice played like she was completely alone in the world. When she finished the song, a few people clapped. A heavy-set man behind the bar waved to her. "2 more songs and we have a deal," he shouted. Alice nodded and started another song. Henry noticed she was pale, very pale, and far too thin. During the second song, she missed a few notes. She shook her head like she was dizzy. Then in the third song, it happened. Alice was in the middle of a difficult passage when her hands began to shake. She stopped playing and touched her forehead. "Sorry," she said softly. "I just need a second." She tried to get up from the piano bench and collapsed. She fell to the floor like a rag doll. "Alice!" Henry shouted, jumping up from the table. He ran to her, pushing past the people crowding around. She was unconscious, breathing with difficulty. "Call an ambulance!" He yelled at the bar owner. "Hey, who are you?" the man asked. "Call the damn ambulance." Henry picked Alice up in his arms. She weighed almost nothing. Her body was cold. "When's the last time she ate?" he asked the bar owner. The man shrugged. "I don't know. She just comes here to play. Not my problem." Henry looked at Alice's pale face. Her lips were almost purple. She was starving, and he had spent 17 years thinking she had run off with someone else. When the ambulance arrived, Henry went with her. "Are you a relative?" the paramedic asked. Henry looked at Alice, unconscious on the stretcher. "I'm the only family she has." Alice woke up in a room she didn't recognize. The first thing she saw was the high ceiling with decorative molding. Then she noticed the huge bed she was lying in, with Egyptian cotton sheets that cost more than she made in a month. She sat up, startled. "Where am I?" "In my house." Henry's voice came from the door. He was leaning against the doorway, holding a cup of coffee. He wore a white dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up and dark pants. He looked like he hadn't slept. "How did I end up here?" Alice pulled the sheet up to her neck. "You passed out at the bar. Severe malnutrition according to the doctor." "What doctor?" "Dr. Stevens. I paid him to come examine you here." Alice tried to stand but felt dizzy. "I need to leave." "Go where?" "To faint in another bar." "That's none of your business." "It is now." Alice glared at him. "No, it's not. You can't just kidnap me and bring me to your house." "I didn't kidnap you. I saved you." "I didn't ask to be saved." Henry sighed and stepped into the room. "Alice, you almost died. When was the last time you had a real meal?" "I eat." "A piece of bread a day isn't eating." "How do you know what I eat?" "Because I know you, and because it's obvious just by looking at you." Alice got out of bed, steadying herself against the wall. "Where are my clothes?" "The maid took them to wash. They needed it." "Then give me something to wear and I'll leave." "No." "What do you mean, no?" "You're not leaving until you're better." Alice walked up to him, angry. "You can't keep me here." "I'm not keeping you. I'm taking care of you." "I don't need you to take care of me." "Yes, you do. You're literally starving." "So what? It's my life." "Not when I can stop it." They stared at each other for a few seconds, both breathing heavily. "Why are you doing this?" Alice asked, more quietly. "Because," Henry hesitated, "because I still care about you." "No, you don't. You care about your conscience." "That's not true." "It is. You want to feel better about the past." "Alice, I found out some things. I don't want to know about what really happened, about my family, about your parents." Alice turned pale. "Don't talk about my parents. They died in the fire, didn't they?" "Stop. And you had to run because you thought my family would kill you too." "Stop. My father told me everything, about the money they offered you, about the threats." Alice sat down on the edge of the bed, trembling. "You don't know anything. I know you didn't betray me. I know you were forced to leave." "So what? Does that change anything?" "It changes everything." "No, it doesn't." Alice looked up, her eyes full of tears. "My parents are still dead. I kept running for 17 years, and you kept thinking I was a traitor." Henry knelt down in front of her. "Alice, I'm sorry. If I had known." "If you had known what? Would you have fought your family, thrown away your future for me?" "Yes." "That's not true." "It is true." "No, it's not, because you chose to believe them. You chose to believe I was capable of betraying you. You chose to believe I was only with you for money." Henry lowered his head. "You're right. I chose to believe the easier version, and now what? You want to fix everything? Make me your charity project?" No, I just want you to stay here until you get better. And then you decide what you want to do. Alice studied him for a long time, a few days, just until I feel better. Thank you, but I have conditions. Go ahead. First, you don't try to convince me of anything. Don't talk about the past. Don't try to make me forgive your family. All right. Second, when I say I'm better, you let me go. No questions. No following. No trying to find me again. Henry hesitated. Third, this doesn't mean anything. You're not saving me. You're not fixing the past. I'm only here because I need a place to recover. I understand. And fourth, you get my clothes back, washed or not. They're drying. I'll get them. Henry left the room and came back 5 minutes later with a pile of clean clothes. The housekeeper also bought a few things for you. Underwear, a few basic pieces. They're in the closet. Alice picked up her old clothes. I didn't ask for any of this, I know, but you'll need it. She went into the bathroom to change. When she came back, Henry was gone. Alice looked around the apartment. It was huge. 3 bedrooms, living room, dining room, gourmet kitchen, office. The big windows looked out over Lake Michigan. Everything was expensive, elegant, perfect. Exactly the kind of life they used to dream about when they were young. In the kitchen, she found Henry making a sandwich. Are you hungry? He asked. A little. Sit down. I'll make something light. The doctor said you need to start eating slowly again. Alice sat at the counter and watched him cook. His hands moved confidently like it was something he did all the time. You learned to cook? She asked. I had to learn. I've lived alone for years. Never got married? No. Why not? Henry stopped cutting the tomatoes. I never found the right person. Or you never got over the wrong one. He glanced at her. Maybe. They ate in silence. Alice was careful to eat slowly, but she was starving. It was the first good meal she'd had in weeks. Is it good? Henry asked. It is. Do you want anything else? No, thank you. After lunch, Alice went to the living room. There was a grand piano in the corner, exactly like Henry had promised when they were young. Do you play? She asked. No, I'd bought it thinking. He stopped. Thinking what? Nothing. I just liked the sound. Alice ran her fingers over the keys without pressing them. It's a beautiful instrument. You can play if you want. No. Why not? Because I don't want to. In the next few days, they settled into a strange routine. Henry left for work in the morning. Alice stayed home, resting, reading, watching TV. He came back in the late afternoon and they cooked dinner together. They didn't talk much. When they did, it was about small things. The weather, the news, the food. But there was always a quiet tension between them. Glances that lasted a second too long. Hands that almost touched when they passed something to each other in the kitchen. Memories that hung between them like ghosts. On the third day, Alice was feeling much better. She had gained some weight. Color had come back to her face. She was ready to leave. But something kept her from telling Henry. Maybe it was because, for the first time in 17 years, she felt safe. Or maybe it was because being near him, even with all the past pain, still made her heart race. On the 4th day, they were cooking together when Alice bent down to get a pot from the lower cabinet. When she stood up, something slipped from her neck and fell to the floor with a metallic clink. Henry bent down to pick it up. It was a necklace. A thin silver chain with a small heart-shaped pendant. He recognized it immediately. It was the necklace he had given Alice for her 16th birthday. The first gift he ever bought with his own money. You still have this? He asked, holding the necklace. Alice blushed. I forgot I was wearing it. Alice, you've kept this for 17 years? She tried to take the necklace back, but Henry stepped away. You kept it. It doesn't mean anything. It does mean something. It doesn't. If you had really betrayed me, if you had really left just for the money, you wouldn't have held on to this. Alice stopped reaching for the necklace. Henry, you never stopped loving me. Tears welled up in Alice's eyes. Don't do this. Just like I never stopped loving you. Please stop. Henry moved closer, holding the necklace. 17 years, Alice. 17 years wearing this. Why? Because I'm a fool. No, because even after everything that happened, even after running away, even after thinking I was your enemy, some part of you still believed in what we had. A tear ran down Alice's cheek. And what if I did believe? What difference does it make? Henry held the necklace out to her. It means maybe it's not too late to fix things. Alice looked at the necklace, then at Henry. And for the first time in 17 years, she started to consider that maybe her heart had been right, and her head wrong. Later, Marcelo Ferrara was sitting in his office on the top floor of a building in downtown Chicago, looking over the photos his private detective had taken. Henry Smith, going in and out of his apartment with a thin woman with brown hair. The same woman he had carried out of a bar on the outskirts of town. Marcelo smiled. This was exactly the kind of information that could bring Henry down for good. Patricia, he called his secretary over the intercom. Call that journalist from the Chicago Tribune, the one who owes me a favor. Yes, Mr. Ferrara. Marcelo picked up the phone when it rang. Mike, it's Marcelo. I've got a story you're going to want. What kind of story? Henry Smith, the billionaire CEO, is sheltering a homeless woman in his apartment, an old girlfriend from his youth. She's been living on the streets, playing piano for money. How do you know that? I have pictures and witnesses. I can prove it all. What's the angle? Think about it. Cold-hearted billionaire ignores the homeless for years, but as soon as he finds out one of them was his teenage sweetheart, suddenly he wants to play hero. It's pure hypocrisy. It'll ruin his reputation. And what's in it for you? Let's just say Henry and I have a few business disagreements. Send me the photos. If the story holds up, I'll publish it tomorrow. Marcelo hung up, satisfied, and muttered, Henry Smith always thinks he's better than everyone. Mr. Perfect, the ideal son, the model businessman. Now everyone would see he was just like any other man, weak when it came to a woman. Across town, Richard Smith was having a very different kind of meeting. The family patriarch was sitting in the library of his mansion with 3 other men, all in dark suits, all with serious expressions. This is getting out of control, Richard said. My son is sheltering the Collins girl. I thought she died in the fire, said one of the men, James Morrison, a longtime partner of the Smith family. Apparently not, and if she starts talking about what she knows. What could she know? She was just a teenager, said another man. She was a sharp teenager, and her father found out a lot before he died. Richard, are you sure she's really a threat? Asked the third man. You don't understand. That girl was obsessed with my son. She always wanted to know everything about our family, asked questions, dug around, and her father was trying to use that information to blackmail us. So what do you want us to do? First, I'll talk to Henry. Make him see he needs to stay away from her. If that doesn't work? If it doesn't work? James leaned forward. We'll have to take more serious action. Richard, are you saying? I'm saying we need to protect our family, just like we always have. The men exchanged looks. And the wedding with Ferrara's daughter? One of them asked. That's why this has to be handled quickly. If Marcelo finds out about the girl, he might cancel the deal, or use it to blackmail us. Exactly. That's why she needs to disappear. Again. At that very moment, in Henry's apartment, Alice was in the kitchen preparing dinner. It had been a strange afternoon. After the moment with the necklace, they had grown closer, but also more tense, like something had shifted between them, but neither one of them knew exactly what it was. Alice was chopping vegetables when she heard the door open. Henry? She called. It's me, he answered, but his voice sounded different. Tense. She walked into the living room and saw he wasn't alone. 3 men in suits were with him, all older, all with serious, unfriendly faces. Alice, Henry said, forcing a smile. These are business partners of my father. The men looked at her like she was something beneath them. Miss Collins, one of them said, we've heard a lot about you. Alice felt a chill. You know me? We know your family, another replied. We're very sorry for the loss of your parents. The way he said sorry didn't sound sincere. It sounded like a threat. Henry, Alice said quietly, I'm going to the bedroom. No need, Henry answered quickly. They were just leaving. Actually, said the third man, we'd like to speak with both of you. Henry stepped in front of Alice. About what? About the future. About choices. About the consequences of those choices. Say what you mean. Henry, you have responsibilities. To your family, to your business, to your future. So what? And Miss Collins could complicate those responsibilities. Alice felt her blood run cold. It was the same conversation from 17 years ago. Are you threatening me? She asked. We don't threaten anyone. One of the men replied with a cold smile. We simply clarify situations. Get out of my house, Henry said, his voice low and dangerous. Henry, don't be rash. Think about what's at stake. I said, get out. The men looked at each other. We'll go. But this isn't over. When they left, Alice sat down on the couch, shaking. They're back, she whispered. Who's back? The same men. The ones who forced my father to do those things, the ones who killed my parents. Henry sat next to her. Alice, they're not going to do anything. I won't let them. You don't understand. They won't stop until they get what they want. And what do they want? For me to disappear again. For good this time. Henry took her hands. That's not going to happen. Henry, you need to understand something. Your family, they're not normal people. What do you mean? My father found out things about their business, illegal things, money laundering, bribery, worse things. How do you know this? Because my father told me before he died. He said that if anything ever happened to him, I should tell the police everything. And you never did. How could I? I was on the run. I thought the police were involved too. Henry stood up and started pacing the room. My God, all these years. Henry, you have to stay away from me. They'll do something terrible if you don't. No. What do you mean, no? I'm not staying away from you. Not again. Just then, Henry's phone rang. It's my father, he said, looking at the screen. Answer it. Henry answered and put it on speaker. Henry, where are you? At home. I need to talk to you. Now. Go ahead. Not over the phone. Come here. I'm busy. Henry, this isn't a request, it's an order. Since when do you give me orders? Since you started putting our family at risk. Speaking of risk, 3 of your thugs just left here, explaining to Alice why she needs to disappear again. There was a long silence. Henry, you don't understand the situation. I understand perfectly. You killed her parents, forced her to run, and now you want to do it again. We didn't kill anyone, but you knew it was going to happen, and you did nothing to stop it. Henry, come here. Now. No. Your engagement to Sofia Ferrara will be announced next week. You can't ruin that. Alice froze. What engagement? She asked softly. Henry looked at her, panic in his eyes. Dad, I'm not marrying Sofia Ferrara. Yes, you are. Everything's settled. The contract's been signed. What contract? The contract to join the companies, your company and Marcelo Ferrara's, through your marriage. I never signed that. I signed it for you as your majority shareholder. Alice stood up, her legs shaky. Henry, she whispered. Alice, wait, Henry said to her, then turned back to the phone. Dad, I'm not marrying her. Yes, you are, and you're going to get rid of that beggar before she ruins everything. Don't call her a beggar. Henry, you have 24 hours to fix this, or I will. The line went dead. Alice leaned against the wall, crying. You're engaged? She said. No, I didn't know anything about this. But you're going to marry her. I'm not. Henry, you have to choose. Your family and your business, or me. I choose you. No, you can't choose. You have responsibilities, employees, people who depend on you. Alice and me? I'm just a beggar who showed up in your life to make everything more complicated. You're not just that. Yes, I am, and we both know it. Alice headed toward the bedroom. Where are you going? To pack my things. It's time for me to leave. Alice, don't do this. There's no other way, Henry. Yes, there is. We can run away, like we planned when we were young. And your company? Your employees? Your life? Henry was silent. That's it, Alice said sadly. You can't give me up, but you can't be with me either. Alice, and I can't live like this anymore. Always running, always hiding, always causing problems for the people I love. So what do we do? Alice stopped at the bedroom door and looked at him. We say goodbye. For real this time. I can't. You'll have to. Alice went into the bedroom and closed the door. Outside, Henry leaned his head against the wall. For the first time in his life, he understood what it meant to choose between love and duty. And for the first time, he didn't know which choice was right. Alice waited until Henry was asleep. At 3 a.m, she quietly left the bedroom, carrying only a small backpack with her old clothes. She left the new clothes Henry had bought folded on the bed. They didn't really belong to her. On the kitchen table, she left a note. Henry, thank you for saving me. But now I need to save you. Don't look for me. This time it's forever. Alice. She left the apartment without looking back. The streets of Chicago were empty and cold. Alice pulled her thin coat tight around her and started walking with no destination. She had no plans, no money. All she knew was that she had to stay away from Henry before something terrible happened to him. She spent the next 3 days sleeping on park benches and in different shelters every night. She avoided the places where she knew Henry might look for her. On the 4th day, she was sitting on a bench near the lake, trying to figure out what to do with her life, when a well-dressed man approached her. "Are you Alice Collins?" he asked. Alice looked up. The man was tall, well-dressed, with neatly cut gray hair. He was smiling, but there was something cold in his smile. "Who's asking?" "My name is Marcelo Ferrara. I'm a friend of Henry Smith." Alice tensed up. "What do you want?" "May I sit down?" He pointed to the bench. "It's a free country." Marcelo sat down, keeping a respectful distance. "Henry is very worried about you." "How did you find me?" "Henry asked me for help finding you. He's desperate." Alice studied the man's face, suspicious. "Why would he ask you for help?" "Because I have resources, private detectives, contacts in the city." "And why would you help him?" "Because I care about Henry's well-being, and it's clear that you're important to him." Alice shook her head. "I've left his life, for good, but he doesn't want you to leave. It doesn't matter what he wants. It's better this way." Marcelo leaned forward, his voice softening. "Alice, can I be honest with you?" "Go ahead." "Henry's in a complicated situation. His family is pressuring him to marry my daughter." Alice felt a stab in her chest. "Your daughter?" "Sophia. It's an arranged marriage, purely financial. Henry doesn't love her, but he's going to marry her anyway, unless he has a good reason not to." Alice frowned. "What kind of reason?" "You, me?" "If Henry can show his family that he has someone he truly loves, someone worth fighting for, maybe they'll change their mind about the arranged marriage." "And why are you telling me this? Don't you want your daughter to marry him?" Marcelo sighed. "I want my daughter to be happy, and she won't be happy married to a man who loves someone else." Alice thought for a few seconds. "Even if that's true, I can't help Henry. Look at me. I'm a beggar. That can be changed." "How?" "Let me help you. A place to live, decent clothes, a job, so you can stand on your own and show the Smith family you're a respectable person." "Why would you do this?" "Because I believe in true love, and it's clear that you two love each other." Alice hesitated. Part of her knew she should be suspicious, but another part of her desperately wanted to believe there was a chance. "What do you want in return?" "Nothing. Just that you give Henry a chance to fight for both of you." "I don't know. Alice, you can spend the rest of your life running, or you can fight for what you want." Marcelo stood up and took a card from his pocket. "This is the address of a hotel. It's already paid for a week. And here," he handed her an envelope, "is money for you to buy clothes and get ready." Alice took the envelope, still suspicious. "Why are you being so kind?" "Because I recognize a true love story when I see one." Marcelo took a few steps back, then turned around. "Oh, Alice?" "Yes?" "There's a dress in your hotel room. It's for a dinner tomorrow night. Henry will be there. It might be a good chance for you two to talk." "What dinner?" "You'll find out when you get there." Marcelo smiled and walked away. Alice stood still, holding the envelope. Everything felt too good to be true, but she was so tired of running. The next day, Alice went to the hotel. It was elegant, but not over the top. The room was small, but clean and comfortable. In the closet, there was a simple but beautiful navy blue dress, along with shoes and a small purse. Alice took a long shower, got ready, and went to the dinner at the address Marcelo had given her. It was a fancy restaurant. Alice felt out of place among all the well-dressed men and women, but she took a deep breath and went in. A waiter led her to a table in the back of the restaurant. "Mr. Henry will be here soon," he said. Alice waited for 20 minutes. Henry didn't show up. She started to feel nervous when she noticed people staring at her, whispering, pointing. She stood up to leave when 2 security guards appeared beside her table. "Ma'am, you need to come with us." "Matt," one of them said. "Why?" "You're a suspect in a theft." "What do you mean, theft?" "The purse you're carrying was stolen from a store earlier today." Alice looked down at the purse Marcelo had left in the hotel room. "That's not true. This purse was a gift." "You'll have to explain that at the station." Alice was arrested in shock. At the police station, she found out that not only the purse, but also the dress and shoes had been reported stolen. Someone had set her up, and she had walked right into the trap. 3 hours later, Henry stormed into the police station like a hurricane. "Where is she?" he shouted at the officer. "Mr. Smith, she was arrested for theft. I can't just let her go." "How much are these things she supposedly stole?" "About $300. Henry pulled out his wallet and threw $1,000 on the desk. "Now you can let her go." "Sir, that's not how it works." "Yes, it is. I'm paying for what was stolen, dropping the charges, and she walks out." Now, 10 minutes later, Alice walked out of the cell. "Henry, how did you?" "Marcus called me. He has contacts in the police." "I didn't steal anything. Someone set me up." "I know. It was Marcello." "How do you know that?" "Because he's done the same thing to others. It's what he does." They walked in silence to Henry's car. "Alice, I'm sorry for everything, for my family, for what they did to you, for not protecting you." "Henry, no. Let me finish." He stopped and turned to her. "I choose you." "You can't choose." "Yes, I can. I'll walk away from the company, from the money, from everything." "Don't do that. I've already made up my mind." "Henry, you'll regret it. The only thing I regret is losing 17 years without you." Alice looked into his eyes and saw he meant every word. "And what if your family comes after us? Then we'll face it together. And what if we don't make it? At least we tried." Henry stepped closer to her. Alice, I love you. I've always loved you. And if you give me a chance, I'll spend the rest of my life proving it." Tears ran down Alice's face. "I love you too. Then stay with me. Forever." This time, Alice didn't run. This time, when Henry leaned in to kiss her, she kissed him back. Their first kiss in 17 years. And everything that had happened between them disappeared. Only that moment remained. Only that love. The love that had survived everything. The morning after the kiss, Alice woke up in Henry's apartment feeling different. For the first time in 17 years, she didn't feel like running. Henry was already in the kitchen making breakfast. When he saw her, he smiled in a way that made her heart race. "Good morning," he said. "Good morning." They had breakfast in silence, but it wasn't an awkward silence. It felt like something had settled between them. "Alice," Henry said after a while, "I have a proposal for you." "What kind of proposal?" "A job." Alice raised her eyebrows. "A job? My company is starting a new project, restoring old pianos for public schools. It's a social program that'll run for a year." "And what does that have to do with me?" "I need someone who knows music, someone who can tell the value of an instrument, someone to lead the project." Alice set her coffee cup down. "Henry, I don't know anything about leading projects. But you know everything about pianos and music. That's what matters. You're making up this job for me." "I'm not. The project is real. It's been in the works for months. I just hadn't found the right person to lead it." Alice looked at him, unsure. "And you think I'm the right person for this?" "I'm sure of it. Henry, I lived on the streets for years. I don't have a college degree. I don't have experience in business. You have something better than a degree. You have a passion for music. That's not a qualification for a job. It's the only one that really matters." Alice got up and walked to the window. "Why are you doing this? Because I believe in you? Or because you want to keep me close?" Henry walked over to her. "Maybe both." Alice turned to face him. "I don't want to be your charity case." "You're not. You're the most qualified person for this job." "How can you be so sure?" "Because last night, after you fell asleep, I heard you playing the piano." Alice blushed. "You heard me? It was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. Even after all those years on the street, you still play like an angel." "Henry?" "Alice, take the job. Not for me, for you, so you can do what you love again." Alice thought for a long moment. "How much does it pay?" $5,000 a month. That's a lot of money. It's what any project coordinator would make. And what if I'm not good at it? You will be." Alice sighed. "All right, I'll take it, but on one condition." "What is it?" "If it doesn't work out, you let me leave. No drama, no trying to talk me into staying. Deal." "And one more thing. Go ahead." "This is work. Don't mix it with," she pointed between them, "with this." Henry smiled. "Got it. During work hours, we're co-workers." "Exactly. And after work?" Alice blushed. "We'll see." In the days that followed, Alice started working on the project. At first, she felt lost in the business environment. Meetings, spreadsheets, reports, it was all new to her. But when they visited the first school to check the pianos that needed repair, Alice came alive. "This piano is over 50 years old," she said, running her fingers over the keys. The wood's still in good shape, but it needs tuning and some new parts. You can tell all that just by playing it? Asked Marcus, Henry's assistant. Every piano has a personality. You learn to listen to what they're trying to say. Henry watched Alice work with a smile. It was like she had come back to life. How many pianos can we restore with the budget we have? He asked. About 20, maybe 25 if we can get some good used parts. And how many schools would that help? About 10. Each school would get 2 or 3 pianos. Perfect. Over the next few weeks, Alice threw herself into the work. She visited schools, inspected instruments, and coordinated teams of restorers. It was like she'd found her true calling. And the connection between her and Henry kept getting stronger. Little moments stolen during the day, hands brushing as they passed papers, glances that lasted a bit too long. But Alice still kept her emotional guard up. "Why don't you trust me?" Henry asked one afternoon after she turned down his invitation to dinner. "I do trust you." "No, you don't. Every time I try to get close, you pull away." "That's not true." "Yes, it is. It's like you're waiting for me to hurt you again." Alice stopped sorting the papers on her desk. "Maybe because you already did." "Alice, I was a kid. I believed what my family told me. And if they tell you something else now, will you believe them again?" "No." "How can I be sure?" Henry took her hands. "Because now I know the truth. And now I choose you, not them." Alice looked into his eyes, wanting to believe him. "Henry, I'm trying to trust you. But it's hard. I know, and I'll wait as long as it takes. And what if I never fully trust you?" "Then we'll take it one day at a time." Alice almost smiled. "One day at a time. Yeah, no pressure, no rush." The next Friday, Alice was leaving the office when she saw something that shattered her. Henry was walking into a fancy restaurant across the street, and he wasn't alone. A beautiful blonde woman, well-dressed, was with him. She laughed at something Henry said and touched his arm in a familiar way. Alice recognized her from pictures in the society pages. Sofia Ferrara, Henry's arranged fiancée. Alice stood on the sidewalk, watching through the restaurant window. Henry pulled out a chair for Sofia. She smiled at him like they were a real couple. Alice's heart broke into 1,000 pieces. He had lied. All those weeks, while he told her he chose her, while he kissed her, while they talked about trust, he was still engaged. Alice stepped back from the window, tears falling down her face. She had been foolish again. She had believed again. She had fallen in love again. And she had been betrayed again. She picked up her phone and called Henry, but hung up before he could answer. What was she going to say? That she saw him having dinner with his fiancée? He would come up with some excuse. Say it was just business, that it didn't mean anything, just like he had said about everything else. Alice went back to Henry's apartment, packed her bags, and wrote a note. "Henry, I saw you with Sophia today. I got the message. Thank you for the work and for reminding me why I should never have come back. This time, it's for good. Alice." She left the keys on top of the note and left. This time, she didn't look back, because she was sure that if she did, she would change her mind. And she couldn't afford to be foolish a third time. Henry got home at 10 that night, exhausted from the longest, most painful dinner of his life. He saw the keys on the table before he even saw the note. When he read Alice's words, it felt like a punch to the stomach. She saw him with Sophia, and she came to the wrong conclusion. Henry grabbed his phone and called Alice once, twice, 5 times. Every call went straight to voicemail. He left the apartment and drove to every place he thought she might be. The shelter where he had found her, the bar where she used to play, the park where they had reunited. Alice had disappeared again. Henry spent the whole night searching. The next morning, he hired 3 private detectives to find her. It took 2 days. She was in a cheap hotel on the edge of the city, registered under a false name, but the receptionist recognized her from the description. Henry knocked on her door at 6 in the morning on the 3rd day. "Alice, open the door. I know you're in there." Silence. "Alice, please, let me explain." "There's nothing to explain." Her voice came from the other side of the door. "Yes, there is. Everything you saw was wrong. I saw you having dinner with your fiancée." "She's not my fiancée." "Stop lying." "Alice, open this door or I'll break it down." More silence. Then the sound of locks being opened. Alice appeared at the door. Her hair was messy and her eyes were red from crying all night. Just say what you need to say and leave. Can I come in? No, Alice, please. Say it right here, Henry sighed. The dinner with Sophia was arranged for business reasons. My father set it up without telling me. Of course he did. It's true. He said if I didn't go, he would cancel the piano project. He'd leave all those schools without music. How convenient. Alice, I spent the whole dinner telling Sophia I couldn't marry her, and she was fine with that? No, she was furious, but I made it clear I love someone else. Alice stared at him, still suspicious. Why should I believe you? Because you know me. I thought I knew you. Henry stepped closer to her. Alice, I understand why you don't trust me. I deserve that. But let me tell you the whole truth. What truth? About what really happened 17 years ago. Alice hesitated, but motioned for him to come in. The room was small and simple. Alice sat on the bed. Henry stood by the wall. I looked into everything, he began. I talked to people in Greenfield. I read old police reports. I found out things my own family hid from me for years. What kind of things? My father lied about everything. Your father didn't owe money to loan sharks. He was being blackmailed. Blackmailed for what? Because he found out my family was laundering money through fake companies. Your father worked as an accountant for one of those companies for a few weeks. Alice turned pale. And when he found out, he tried to tell someone? He tried. But my family found out first. They offered him money to keep quiet. When he refused, they started making threats. Threats like what? They said they would do something to you if he said anything. Alice jumped up, upset. So my father was trying to protect me. Exactly. And when my family found out about us, they saw an opportunity. What kind of opportunity? To use our relationship to control your father, and to control me too. What do you mean? Henry took a deep breath. They set everything up, the fake note, the missing money from my account, everything to make us believe you had betrayed me. But why would they do that? Because if you disappeared, and I believed you had betrayed me, I would stop asking questions about where you were. And your father would lose the motivation to come looking for me to tell the truth. Alice sat back down, trying to take it all in. And the fire? When you disappeared, your father was desperate. He thought he had lost you forever. So he decided to go to the police and tell everything he knew. And your family found out. They found out, and they hired people to take care of the problem. They killed my parents. Alice, I'm so sorry. If I had known back then, you were just a kid. How could you have known? I should have trusted you. I should have questioned their story. Alice stayed quiet for a long time. And you, she finally asked, what are you going to do now? What do you mean? Your family, your company, your life. What are you going to do? Henry knelt down in front of her. Alice, I don't want anything from that life anymore. Don't say something so foolish. It's not foolish. I can't even look at my father without feeling disgusted. I can't work for a company built on dirty money. Henry, you have employees, people who depend on you. They'll still have jobs. They just won't have me as their boss. What do you mean? Henry held her hands. I'm going to step down. I'm going to transfer my share of the company to a foundation. Use the money for social causes. You can't do that. Yes, I can, and I will. Henry, you'll be left with nothing. No, I won't. I'll have you. Alice stood up and walked to the window. No, you won't. What do you mean? Henry, I need to leave. Go where? I don't know. Somewhere far, somewhere I can figure out who I am when I'm not running or being rescued by someone. Alice, for 17 years, I lived like a victim. Running, hiding, just trying to survive. And now, with you, I'm living like someone being saved. And what's wrong with that? The problem is, I never learned how to live as myself. Henry came closer to her. You can learn here, with me. I can't, because with you, I'll always be the girl you rescued, the girl who needs protection. That's not true. Yes, it is, and you'll always feel guilty about what your family did. You'll always try to make up for it. Alice, I love you. I know, and I love you too, but love isn't enough. Why not? Alice turned to face him, her eyes full of tears. Because first, I need to learn to love myself. I need to find out who I am when I'm not defined by the pain of my past or the love I feel for you. And how long will that take? I don't know. Maybe months, maybe years. And what if, when you figure it out, you don't want to be with me anymore? Then at least we'll know it was a real choice, not just two hurt people trying to heal through each other. Henry was quiet for a long time. I understand, he said at last. Do you really? I do, and I'll wait. Henry, you can't put your life on hold for me. I'm not putting it on hold. I'm building a new one, and hoping that when you're ready, there's still room for you in it. Alice stepped closer and gently touched his face. Thank you for understanding. Thank you for being honest. They kissed. A goodbye kiss, sweet and sad at the same time. The next day, Henry called an emergency meeting with the board of Smith & Associates. Gentlemen, he said, looking each one in the eye, I'm stepping down as CEO, and I'm donating all my shares to the musical education foundation I just created. The room went completely silent. Richard Smith stood up, red with anger. Are you out of your mind? On the contrary, Dad, I'm finally thinking clearly. You're going to destroy everything we built. You destroyed it when you destroyed innocent lives. Henry, the meeting's over. Have a good day, gentlemen. Henry walked out of the room, leaving the chaos behind. For the first time in years, he felt free. 6 months later, Alice was teaching piano at a public school in Detroit when she received a letter. There was no return address on the envelope, but she recognized the handwriting right away. Henry. Inside was an elegant invitation and a handwritten letter. Alice, I'm organizing a benefit concert to raise money for the music program in Chicago's public schools. I'd like you to be the main pianist. I know you're building your own life now, and I respect that. But this concert could help hundreds of children get access to music. I hope you'll consider it. With love, Henry. Alice read the letter 3 times. Over the last 6 months, she had worked hard to build a life of her own. She rented a small apartment, got a job at a school, and was seeing a therapist to deal with her past trauma. And it was working. For the first time in her life, she felt whole. But she still thought about Henry every day. Miss Collins? One of her students, Sarah, interrupted. Are you okay? Yes, sweetheart. I just got some interesting news. Good news or bad? Alice smiled. I don't know yet. That night, Alice called the number on the invitation. Hello. Henry's voice made her heart race. It's me. Alice. He looked genuinely surprised. You got the letter. I did. And? Why me? There are much better pianists in Chicago. Because you understand the project. You know what it means to give music to children who never had that chance. Henry, I haven't played professionally in years. You play every day at school. For 8-year-olds, not for a gala audience. Alice, I trust you more than any professional pianist. Alice hesitated. When is the concert? 3 weeks from now, at the City Theater. City Theater? Alice almost choked. Henry, that's the most important theater in the city. I know, and you're going to be perfect. You're out of your mind. Maybe. Do you accept? Alice took a deep breath. All right, but only for the cause. For the kids. Of course. Just for the cause. And Henry, yes? This doesn't change anything between us, I know. In the next 3 weeks, Alice prepared intensely. She chose 3 pieces, 1 classical, 1 contemporary, and 1 she had written years ago. She went back to Chicago 2 days before the concert and stayed in a hotel. Henry offered his apartment, but she said no. She needed to keep some emotional distance. On the night of the concert, Alice arrived at the theater 2 hours before it started. The place was being decorated with white flowers and soft lights. It was elegant but warm. Alice! Henry appeared backstage, looking handsome in a black tuxedo. How are you feeling? Nervous. It's going to be fine. How can you be so sure? Because you were born for this. Alice looked at him, feeling the familiar spark between them. Henry, you seem different. Different how? Lighter, happier. That's what happens when you stop carrying around lies. How's your family? My dad won't talk to me. My mom calls me secretly sometimes. My brother thinks I've lost my mind. Do you regret it? Regret doing the right thing? Never. The theater began to fill. Alice peeked through the curtain and saw hundreds of well-dressed people taking their seats. Oh my God, she whispered. There are so many people. We raised over $500,000 just from ticket sales, Henry said proudly. $500,000? And the auction donations should go over $1 million. Henry, that's amazing. That's the power of music and the right person playing it. The concert started at exactly 8. Alice walked onto the stage and sat at the grand piano, shining under the spotlights. The theater was completely silent. She began with Chopin. The first notes flowed from her fingers like water. The music filled every corner of the room, touching every heart in the audience. When she finished, the crowd burst into applause. The second piece was contemporary, full of energy and passion. Alice got lost in the music, forgetting where she was, forgetting the crowd. More thunderous applause. "Ladies and gentlemen," Henry's voice came through the speakers, "before the final piece, I'd like to say a few words." Alice looked at him, confused. This wasn't in the program. Henry walked onto the stage with a microphone. "Tonight isn't just about music," he began. "It's about second chances. About truth, about love that survives time and lies." Alice felt her heart start to race. "A few months ago, I found out my family had done terrible things. They ruined innocent lives to protect dirty secrets." A quiet murmur ran through the audience. "And one of the lives they destroyed is the woman at the piano tonight." All eyes turned toward Alice. "Alice Collins lost her family because of my family's greed. She was forced to live like a fugitive for 17 years, and all that time, I believed a lie." "Henry," Alice whispered, but the microphone picked it up. "Alice, I'm sorry. For believing them. For not trusting you. For all the years we lost." Tears ran down Alice's face. "And to everyone here tonight," Henry went on, "I want you to know that I've given away my entire fortune to support music education programs, because I've learned that dirty money doesn't bring happiness. But music heals everything." The audience was completely silent. "Alice," Henry turned to her, "I love you. I've always loved you. And if you'll let me, I want to spend the rest of my life making up for the time we lost." Alice stood up from the piano bench, trembling. "Henry, you can't do this here, in front of all these people." "Yes, I can. Because I want the whole world to know that you are the most important person in my life." "You're crazy." "I am crazy about you." The audience began to applaud. Alice looked at all those people, then at Henry. "The last piece," she said quietly, "is for you." She went back to the piano and started to play the song she had written when she was 17. The music she used to play when she thought about Henry during those cold nights on the street. It was a sad melody, but beautiful, full of longing and hope. When she finished, there was no applause, there was silence. The kind of silence that happens when something sacred has just been shared. Then slowly, one person started clapping, then another. In a few seconds, the whole theater was standing, applauding. Alice stood up and bowed. As the theater started to empty, Henry went up to her. "Alice, that was beautiful," she said, still emotional. "The concert, your speech, everything. So do you forgive me?" "Henry, I forgave you a long time ago, and do you want to try again? You and me?" Alice looked him in the eye. "I do, but first I need to finish something." "What?" "I need to go back to Detroit, finish the semester with my kids. And after that?" "After that, we'll see," Henry smiled. "Can I visit you?" "Yes." "Can I call you every day?" "Yes." "Can I love you from afar until you're ready?" Alice came closer and gave him a gentle kiss. "Yes." But when Henry went to get the car, Alice was already gone. She had only left a note. "Henry, thank you for the most beautiful night of my life. But I still need a little more time. Love, Alice." Henry smiled and put the note in his pocket. This time, he didn't panic. This time, he understood. And this time, he would wait as long as it took. 3 weeks went by after the concert. Henry tried calling Alice every day, but her phone was always turned off. He sent flowers to the hotel where she had been staying, but found out she had already checked out. He hired detectives to find her, but Alice had disappeared without a trace. "Mr. Smith," said Marcus, his former assistant, during a lunch, "maybe it's better to accept that she needs space. I just want to make sure she's okay." "And what if she doesn't want to be found?" Henry sighed. "Then I'll respect that." But deep down, he couldn't stop searching. In the 4th week, he got a call from a detective. "Mr. Smith, I found Alice Collins." Henry's heart raced. "Where is she?" "In a small town called Riverside, 2 hours from Chicago. She's working at a public school as a music teacher." "Are you sure?" "Absolutely. She rented an apartment and is listed as an employee at Riverside Elementary School." Henry wrote down the address. "Thank you. Sir, can I make a suggestion?" "Go ahead. Maybe you should think carefully before going there. If she wanted to disappear, it's because she needs time." Henry hung up and stared at the address for an hour. Marcus was right. The detective was right. But he needed to see her. Even from a distance. Just to make sure she was happy. The next day, Henry drove to Riverside. It was a small, friendly town. Simple houses, tree-lined streets, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone. The school was in the center of town, an old but well-kept building, with a colorful playground and kids playing in the yard. Henry parked across the street and waited. At 3:30 in the afternoon, he saw Alice coming out of the building. She looked different. Lighter. She wore a simple, colorful dress, her hair down, and she was smiling at a group of kids who were following her to the gate. "Bye, Miss Alice," the kids shouted. "Bye, my dears. Don't forget to practice." Henry watched Alice walk down the street to a small apartment a few blocks away. She greeted neighbors, stopped to pet a dog, bought fruit at a small store. She looked happy. Really happy. Henry stayed there, watching from a distance, for 3 days in a row. Every morning, Alice walked to the school. Every afternoon, she came back smiling. On Saturdays, she gave private piano lessons at home. On Sundays, she played at the local church. She had built a life. A simple but real life. On the 4th day, Henry gathered his courage and crossed the street. He knocked on Alice's apartment door at 7 in the evening. When she opened the door, her face went through several emotions. Surprise, happiness, fear. "Henry? How did you— I'm sorry. I know you need space. I just needed to see if you were okay." Alice stood at the door, unsure what to say. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I am." "Yes," Henry smiled. "Then that's all that matters." "Henry, Alice, I didn't come here to pressure you or to convince you to come back. I just wanted to see you happy. And now that you've seen it, now I can leave in peace." Alice frowned. "You're leaving?" "Yes. You've built something beautiful here. I don't want to get in the way." "But," Alice hesitated, "don't you want to come in? Have some coffee?" "I do, but I won't." "Why not?" "Because if I come in, I'll want to stay, and you need to be sure about what you want before you let me stay." Alice looked at him for a long moment. "Henry, you've changed." "What do you mean?" "You're respecting my space. You're not trying to convince me of anything. I've learned a few things these past months." "What kind of things?" "That real love sometimes means letting someone go, even when it hurts." "And are you ready to let me go?" Henry took a deep breath. "If that's what you want, yes." Alice felt her eyes fill with tears. "And if that's not what I want?" "Then you tell me when you're ready." Henry took a step back. "Alice, you look beautiful, radiant. It's how I always hope to see you." "Henry, I love you. I always will. But I want you to be happy, even if that means not with me." He turned to leave. "Henry, wait." He stopped, but didn't turn around. Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "What have you been doing since you gave everything up?" "I work at a nonprofit that teaches music to underprivileged kids. I don't make much, but it's the most rewarding job I've ever had." "Do you regret it?" "Never." "And are you happy?" Henry turned to look at her. "I'm happier than I was when I was rich, but I'm not complete." "Why not?" "Because the person I love isn't with me." Alice stepped down the 2 steps at the entrance and stood in front of him. "Henry, I have something to confess." "Go ahead." "I didn't disappear because I don't love you." "No? I disappeared because I love you too much, and I was afraid my love was just emotional dependence. And now I know it's not. I spent 4 months building a life of my own. I made friends, I found purpose, I became a whole person. And even as a whole person, I still love you. I still want you in my life." Henry stepped closer to her. "Are you sure?" "Completely. Alice, I don't want you to give up the life you built here. And I don't want you to give up the work you found there." "Then what do we do?" Alice smiled. "We figure it out together." Henry was about to answer when Alice did something that took him completely by surprise. She held his face in both hands and kissed him. It wasn't a gentle kiss. It was desperate, filled with 4 months of longing. When they pulled apart, they were both crying. "I missed you every single day," Alice whispered. "I missed you too. We're never going to be apart again?" "Never again." Henry lifted her off the ground and spun her around, both of them laughing and crying at the same time. "Alice? Yes? Will you marry me? Right now? Now, tomorrow, whenever you want." Alice looked into his eyes. Yes. And for the first time in 17 years, they knew nothing could ever separate them again. 2 years later, the morning sun streamed through the large windows of a building that used to be an abandoned factory. Now the walls echoed with piano scales, guitar chords, and children's laughter. The Hope School of Music had become a reality. Alice walked through the hallways, watching the classrooms where dozens of kids between 8 and 18 were learning instruments. Some came from poor families. Others were orphans. All had one thing in common. They had found, in music, a way to dream of a better future. "Miss Alice," shouted Tommy, a 10-year-old boy. "I played the whole song without messing up." "That's wonderful, Tommy." Alice smiled, brushing his hair back. "Now you can teach it to Sarah. She's having trouble with the same piece." "Really?" "Of course. Teaching is one of the best ways to learn." The boy ran off, excited by his new responsibility. Alice gently rested her hand on her belly, already starting to show. 4 months pregnant, she and Henry could hardly wait to meet the baby, who would arrive in winter. "How are my two favorite people?" Henry appeared behind her, wrapping her in a warm hug. "We're good. The baby's kicking a lot today. Must be a born musician, or a dancer." They laughed. Over the past 2 years, they had built not only a school, but a family. They were married in a simple ceremony at the Riverside Church, with the children from the school as their only witnesses. "Is everything ready for today's event?" Alice asked. "All set. The press will arrive at 2. Donors at 3. The performances start at 4. "Are you nervous?" "A little. It's our first big fundraising event. If it goes well, we can open 2 more school branches. It's going to go well." "How can you be so sure?" "Because when people see what we've done here, they'll want to support it." Henry kissed the top of her head. "I love you. I love you too." The event started in the late afternoon. The school auditorium was packed with business people, politicians, journalists, and the children's families. Alice was backstage helping the kids get ready for their performances when she saw someone who made her heart stop. Richard Smith. Henry's father was standing at the entrance of the auditorium, wearing a simple suit and holding a package. "Henry," Alice said quietly, "your father's here." Henry looked in the direction she pointed and immediately tensed up. "What does he want?" "I don't know, but maybe you should talk to him." "Alice, I don't want any arguments at the kids' event." "Who said there's going to be an argument?" Henry hesitated, then walked over to his father. "Hi, Dad." "Henry." Richard looked older, more tired. "Can I talk to you?" "Now's not a good time. Please, just 5 minutes." Henry looked at Alice, who gave him a small nod to go ahead. They stepped out into the school courtyard. "What do you want?" Henry asked. "To apologize." Henry blinked, surprised. "Apologize?" "For the last 20 years. For all the lies. For destroying innocent lives. For almost ruining your life, too." "Dad." "Let me finish," Richard said, raising his hand. "I've spent the last 2 years watching you build something beautiful, something honest, and I realized you became the man I never managed to be. Why are you telling me this?" "Because I'm paying for everything, Henry." The world seemed to stop. "What?" "Cancer. The doctors gave me 6 months. That's why I'm here. I want to make peace with you before I go." Henry sat down on a bench, stunned. "Dad, You don't have to say anything. I just want you to know I'm proud of you, of the man you've become, of the family you've built." Richard handed him the package. "What's this?" "Something I should have given you a long time ago." Henry opened the package. Inside was an old music box. When he opened it, the melody that played was the same one Alice used to play when they were teenagers. "How did you?" "It belonged to Alice's mother. I managed to recover it from the remains of the house after the fire. I kept it all these years, waiting for the right time to give it back." Henry looked at the music box, moved. "Dad, thank you." "No, thank you, for showing me it's never too late to do the right thing." They hugged for the first time in years. When they returned to the auditorium, the performances had already begun. Henry found Alice and handed her the music box. "What's this?" she asked. "It was your mother's." Alice opened the box and heard the familiar melody. Tears ran down her face. "How did you get it?" "My father kept it all these years." Alice looked at Richard, who was sitting in the back row, and waved. He waved back, smiling. The final performance of the night was Alice's. She walked up to the stage, sat at the piano, and began to play the same melody from the music box. The melody that had brought her and Henry together when they were young. The melody that had carried her through the hardest years. The melody that would now be passed on to a new generation. As she played, Alice looked out at the audience. She saw Henry, his hands gently resting on her belly. She saw Richard, quietly crying. She saw dozens of children who now had a chance to dream, and she knew she was exactly where she was always meant to be. When she finished playing, there was complete silence. Then, slowly, one child began to clap, then another. In seconds, the entire auditorium was on its feet, applauding. Henry walked up to the stage and kissed Alice. "Thank you," he whispered. "For what?" "For showing me that music can heal anything." Alice smiled and placed her hand on her belly. "Our daughter is going to be born into a world full of music." "How do you know it's a girl?" "Mother's intuition. And what name do you want to give her?" Alice looked at the music box sitting on the piano. Melody. Melody Smith. Perfect. And in that moment, with the melody still echoing through the air, Alice knew she had found her happy ending. It wasn't the ending she had dreamed of when she was a teenager. It was better. Because that melody, born in the past, now carried a future no one could ever silence. What did you think of Alice and Henry's story? Share your thoughts in the comments. On a scale from 0 to 10, how would you rate this story? Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell to keep up with all our stories, and take a moment to check out more touching stories by clicking here at the end of the video.